What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am back with another album review for you guys, and today I'm talking about the latest offering from British death doom slash gothic metal pioneers, My Dying Bride with Immortal Binding. This also came out on April 19th, this time on Nuclear Blast Records, and this is their 15th album overall. Of course, My Dying Bride, one of the mainstays of the British death doom slash gothic metal scenes. After all, they, along with Paradise Lost and Anathema, kind of pioneered death doom in England, as well as gothic metal over in the UK as well. So yeah, these guys have been going at it since 1990. I have their first two albums and their last album, although I've not really dove head on too much into My Dying Bride. I've listened to songs here and there, and I like what I've heard. Of course, some of the most depressing stuff you are ever going to hear in terms of death doom or even gothic metal. Pretty much the whole 9 yards of darkness is what you get with My Dying Bride. This album, so this is the first full album I have checked out in its entirety from My Dying Bride. And, well, let's see first impressions. So we kick things off with Her Dominion. Starts off with some, almost Black Sabbath riffs, but with that, gothic atmosphere on top. And I will say the production on this album, pretty well done and very well balanced. Like the guitar tone, it's got some heft to it, it's got some chunk to it, but when it comes down to delivering these somber, sorrowful melodies, man, the guitars really know how to shine. But what's great with this production, the bass is audible the entire time, and there's even moments within some songs where the bass lines get very much notable. Like you can pick out certain bass lines that kind of stand on their own against the riffs. But with Her Dominion, this one was, for the most part, pretty much, I think this was the one song where it was all gruff vocals. Like Aaron, the frontman, he has a interesting voice. Like he has this more evil, gruff tone to his death growls or even black metal vocals with a low gothic clean vocal. And this song was, like I said, pretty much all gruff vocals all throughout, but the riffage on this one's quite heavy, but also the violin from top to bottom on this whole album definitely delivers that darkness to the atmosphere. And the best way to describe this song, it's like a serenade for a ghoulish woman who's about to die. Thornwick Hymn, this is where you start to get the clean vocals, which I'll admit, during the verses, were a little bit odd, but they get better during the choruses. And I like how it starts off with this chugging riff, but with a melodic progression in the background. And the best way to describe this, a diatribe of a dying man and being called by his dead sisters to the sea. The second of three bells. Now, this one is where it really starts to get dark, which is saying something considering, well, with how this band is one of the darkest bands out there. But starts off with acoustic and clean guitars that just add grief to the atmosphere. Tuneful low vocals come in, but the riffs that come in mostly in this track kind of remind me of Candlemass. In terms of straight up doom, this might be the best of the straight up doom metal songs. It doesn't really have much in the way of the death doom until you get towards the end, where you do get a nasty, chunky death metal chug. It's just brief with the vocals. It's a very brief moment in there. And I gotta say, the harmonies, very tuneful. And then this song was practically a funeral dirge, is what this song was all about. Unthroned Creed, some chugging doom riffs coming along here and there. There's even some riffs that kind of reminded me of Hooded Menace a little bit. So yeah, you can definitely tell Hooded Menace are big fans of My Dying Bride, and I can kind of hear that on some riffs on this track. And then this one's mostly clean vocals as well. And with those heavier Hooded Menace type of riffs, that gothic dreariness is laced throughout. And the best way to describe this track, a reflection of a lonely man's life of no redemption. But then we get into the second half where we get to the long tracks, with starting off with the longest of them all at about 11 and a half minutes, the Apocalyptist. This one, clean guitars and violins of grief coming in right out of the gate, and then some heavy riffs with pinch harmonics. Again, this is another one of those primarily Death Doom tracks. Notable bass line that does lead to a clean chorus, but there's some like chugs in the chorus, although you get this more subdued sorrow coming through. And then it gets into a section that's almost, dare I say, bluesy? Like, it's like triplet rhythms, but it's more blues oriented rather than like death metal or death doom or what have you. And the best way to describe this track, a dark tale of a man that witnesses destruction, receiving a crown of thorns. A starving heart, starting off again with more clean guitars, but you get some really cool drum turnovers at one point on this track, which was one of the only times on the album where I'd say you get like a really cool drum fill, because most of the time it's just sticking to the beat and the atmosphere. And this song, death doom goodness, packed full of darkness and sorrow. And this song, the best way to describe it, a telling of a man who's, or actually no, what am I saying? I'm kind of struggling here, guys. A telling of worldly pain seen from heaven, like angels see the world is in peril and they're crying. And then to the closing track at over 9 minutes, Crushed Embers. Pretty much this song, dark melodies all throughout. It's sorrow galore. This song, kind of like, I would say, the second of Three Bells, the next in line in terms of the most doom-oriented track of them all. And this song is almost like a memoriam for a wife who died, became a ghost, watches over her husband in pain, who eventually dies. So it's just nothing but grief and death and pain. And that's pretty much the vibe on this entire album. It's just all about death and grief and anguish and pain and suffering. Pretty much name any other descriptor of this album. So as far as if I could find any complaints, honestly, there wasn't really many, except for maybe a couple of songs where you don't get that many like riff changes. You like get like maybe 1 to 2 riffs on a couple of tracks, but you do get plenty of songs where they do add more to the song. So with that said, overall, I'm going to give this a 4 out of 5. I thought this was a really damn good offering. Granted, it might bring you to tears, but it's well worth it. It's a dark album, and what more can I say? But of course, that's just my opinion. What did you guys think of Immortal Binding by My Dying Bride? Let me know in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Thank you for watching. Keep your horns high and your dreams wet.